What's up, Bears fans? Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Happy Thursday, everybody. We got a loaded show for you guys with the NFL Combine looming next week. Update on that. I know I said I was probably going to be going. I actually am not. Chat Sports will have boots on the ground, though. We'll have 5 or 6 people out there, so we'll get some content from Indy. But I will be here, still bringing you guys content every day. Just wanted to update you guys on that front. Shout out your city. Let us know where you guys are tuning in from here on a Thursday. We got JSMK from Hawaii. That's not the case, Soldier Bear. I actually had to back out just due to family stuff. Wife needs help watching the baby. We had someone back out on us. It's a whole thing. So no worries whatsoever, but no one getting robbed here. Malcolm in the Villages, Florida. We got Tony in Salinas, Asia in Brooklyn. My guy, Sam Loctera, South Illinois, baby. What's up? We got Diego in Chicago. We got Joshua in Moline, Illinois. Lansing, Michigan from Strap. We got Oz in Northbrook. Did you see the Bears finalize their coaching staff? I sure did. We'll talk briefly about that in a little bit. Nothing really new to report on that front. Willie in Atlanta, Raymond in Tennessee, Nick in Cardiff, UK. We've got LaCora in Benny. Shout out LaCora. Julio in Orlando. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. David in San Francisco. Matthew in Chicago. Jack in Tucson, Arizona. You guys all over the globe. That's why Bears fans are the best. All right, fill in the blank. The Bears will win blank games next week or next season. Next week, 0. As we welcome producer Cullen into the show. Obviously, this will be easier to guess after the offseason, but hopefully this number is greater than 5, Cullen. That would be an improvement.
Yes, it would. That's a factual statement. And I think right now the Bears, again, they haven't made any moves because they haven't been able to, but they're kind of looking, hey, we're going to need to be big spenders here, obviously in free agency. Drafts really well. Obviously, new era with Ben Johnson. I don't see why there's any reason this team can't win double-digit games. I know we said that last year, but if things go their way, you never know.
They plug a few holes, and if they get just better play out of key players and Caleb takes a step, I don't see why that's not possible. They should be better coached. Think about the amount of guys they had that just had down years, right? Like DJ Moore for his standards, down year. Cole Kmet for his standards, not necessarily his fault because he didn't get a lot of targets, down year. I think there's a lot of players on this team already, before you even talk about additions, that should just bounce back and play better, for themselves, but also with better coaching, and better schemes. So hopefully that's the case until the games are played. We're just guessing, but we'll have to wait and see. Corey says 9, RJ 9, Edwards says 6, 11 from Larry, 10 plus from Keegan, 11 plus from Joshua, 8 to 10 from Ben. LaCora says 9 and 8. Michael in Sports News say 9. Denny says 9, at least 10 from Cameron. Ben, a Bears fan since 3, says 8 to 10. Michael Ortman says 10. Terrell Banks says 11. Eric Bieniemy was a good hire. I agree. I like that move. Like that move for the Bears. Okay, Joseph Klatt. Harrison, if everyone voted for you as president, would you take the job? No. I don't think I think the president, what do they make, $400,000 now? It's a good paying job, but not for the amount of scrutiny you're under and just pressure you're under. I would not take that job. There's a lot of jobs I would rather do that pay a lot less, if I'm being honest. So, no, I'm not qualified either, so that's a pretty easy one. But I appreciate your endorsement if that's what you're giving me, and I do think that, we could always use younger and fresher energy regardless of the side of the aisle. Definitely think that's a thing. So, but no, I am not interested. Cullen, do you have any interest whatsoever?
Oh, hell no. I am good right where I'm at. I talk sports for a living.
Bears president? Listen.
Yeah.
If Kevin Warren retires or got fired down the road and they want to make me the team president, I am all in on that. So, yeah, I mean, I guess you never know what's going to happen in life. I don't think I'll ever serve in any terms of public office. I would have to say that's very unlikely. Okay, we got a lot to get to, so we'll dive into it here. Hit that like button. What does God mean? Gee, what are you trying to do, YHM? We don't need to spam the chat unless you're trying to make a point. Hit that like button if you want to support the show. Poncho, I'll make that I'll call that a no comment from me, but a lot of people think similarly. There's no doubt about that. Okay, here's what we got coming up here on today's show: the latest Bears news and rumors. We got a lot of stuff to get to, including Ian Cunnigham doing his in-person interview with the Jags. Where do things sit there? We'll talk about that. Live Q&A, hashtag Bears or Super Chat to get your questions on the show. We can work Michael's in real quick, Cullen, before we start. Bears mock draft 7.0 coming up, a little pre-combine mock draft. And then I did a little teaser earlier in the week. I said, hey, do you guys want a perfect offseason O-line plan? I said if we get 50 or more subscribers, we'll do that video, and we did. So we're going to do that segment coming up here as well. So busy show. We'll hit a couple super chats, and then we'll get started. Michael says, if everything goes good in the draft and free agency, how many touchdowns would you like to see from Caleb to be a successful season? I don't like putting numerical, especially like touchdown stats on guys, because like I think touchdowns, really a lot of stats can be misleading, but like I feel like passing touchdowns, there can be such a variance, right, Colin? Because like if you throw a 30-yard pass and get tackled at the 3-yard line, just hand it off. Like who had a more impactful play on that drive, the quarterback or the running back? So I don't really care about the number. I mean, obviously, I just want more offensive touchdowns, regardless of where they come from, because that probably is an indicator that Caleb's playing well. But I don't know if he was in the mid-20s. He was at 20 this year. Can we get 25 plus? I mean, remember early in the year they kept dropping touchdowns, so there were probably 3 or 4 left on the table this year, and that was with an offense that was very up and down. So I think mid-late 20s is very much on the board if the offense is just better under Ben Johnson.
Yeah, I remember Keenan Allen dropping what would have been Caleb's first touchdown against Tennessee. Corner of the end zone.
Rome dropped that one in the back of the end zone against the Texans in week 2. That little like RPO back of the end zone. It actually was like the front of the end zone. Caleb threw it high to him where only he could get it, and he didn't come down with it. So, yeah, some of these stats are like sometimes it's kind. You know what a good example of this is? It's like Jalen Hurts rushing touchdowns. It's like he has like 15 a year because they just do the tush push, and that gets like 8 to 10. Obviously, he's a good running quarterback, but he's not a better running quarterback than Lamar because he rushes for more touchdowns. It's just a lot of these things. It just comes down to situation. Sam, hypotheticals are back, baby. Would you rather drive a car that has triangles for wheels or a car with no seats? So, Colin, I don't know if you know this. Sam Loctera used to tweet or super chat every live show just a random hypothetical like this. So, would you rather drive a car that has triangles for wheels or a car with no seats? I guess a car with no seats because triangles for wheels I don't think works. Like, could you? Because you
would just essentially just you would just be bouncing the entire time. So you're basically uncomfortable no matter.
I would go no seats, and I would just like jerry rig a seat. Like I would just get like 6 pillows and like duct tape it to the floor.
I would make sure like if your car's already kind of low to the ground, just don't have a seat and just like again, you're kind of just grabbing onto the steering wheel.
It's like a bumper car or like bumper cars almost.
Exactly. So I'd probably do that because if you're, like I said, if it's a triangle, I mean.
I would just get a massive headache every time I drove.
You would. Now, triangles may be helpful if you're trying to get up, certain things. Because they can, you can climb into it. But
it would help with, with bad weather conditions.
Oh, Loctero says change it to hexagons.
If it's not cylindrical, I'm probably out.
Yeah, me too.
Probably out. Papi Chulo sits. Can a Dunze reach Amon Ra's level? I don't see why not. I mean, obviously, Amon-Ra is a hell of a player, but Adunze was a top 10 pick. St. Brown was a 4th rounder. So from a draft evaluation standpoint, he had more talent coming in. Now, St. Brown was probably just overlooked for whatever reason. But I think he gives you more vertical downfield ability than St. Brown does. St. Brown's probably the better route runner currently, although I think Adunze is pretty good in that area. So we'll see. But if he can become 90% of the current player St. Brown is, that's a pretty damn good player.
Bears adjacent news. 7-time All-Pro Bowl guard Zach Martin has informed the Cowboys that he prepares to retire.
Okay.
There you go.
That is Bears adjacent because he could have been like a 1-year type of option guy. All right.
There we go.
That is actually notable. So, one offensive lineman off the market. I think most felt like he would either play one more year in Dallas or retire, but now even this situation where he could go elsewhere is done.
I think I finally won over Loctera. He says, I just want to say Cullen was on the fly with that response. He considered the rough terrain and the pros that came with the triangles. Cullen, you're a fan favorite. I appreciate that, Loctera.
Loctera's a real one. Andres, find it kind of crazy the Jags are potentially going into the Combine without a GM. You thought they would have hired Ian or someone already. I mean, I think by this weekend, and we're going to get into that in a second, they're going to have somebody. But yeah, the fact that it's being cut this close, like, you're going to bring in a GM, and that GM is just going to have to work at hyper speed. And now, I will say this: if you're Ian Cunningham, you've been around the Bears who are scouting these guys. Like, you have a feel for the draft. The trickier part is like the rest of your front office staff. Like, who are you bringing in and that stuff? I don't think the player evaluation part is too much to catch up on because all these guys they're interviewing pretty much are currently on staff, so they're like doing the work already. But yeah, I mean, like, if you hire a GM, say Saturday, and the Combine starts Tuesday, I don't know how you really just ramp that up. So it's going to be interesting. This is what happens when you roll out Trent Baalke for 3 weeks after the season and then decide to pull the plug. So
seriously, what a joke of a franchise. Like, you could say, like, again, what you will about the Bears. The Jacksonville Jaguars are legitimately one of the worst run organizations in pro sports.
It's bad, man. I mean, to bring Baalke back and then, oh, wait, the league actually thinks he sucks and we can't get a coach, so we're going to have to fire him. What a disaster. All right, a lot to get into. We'll talk a little Cunningham, Jacksonville off the top here, then a bunch more as well. If you have more questions, fire away. # Bears Super Chat. We'll get to those here in about 15 minutes. What's up, Bears fans? Welcome into Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. We have an Ian Cunnigham update as the Bears assistant GM completed his in-person interview with the Jags on Wednesday. All kinds of rumors flying around. Is he going to get that job? Is he not? We're going to dive into that. We kind of have some national reporters on each side of the fence on whether or not they think he's going to get the gig or not. So let's do that right off the top here. Jordan Schultz, Fox Sports NFL insider, says the Jaguars remain the NFL's only team without a general manager. Combine starts next week, by the way. My sense all along that this is Ian Cunningham's job to lose. The Bears assistant GM, a 2-time finalist for the Titans role, has won Super Bowls with both Baltimore and Philadelphia. One league source described Cunningham as having, quote, exactly the type of temperament and scouting background teams want these days. He's obviously been a valuable lieutenant under Ryan Poles, his right-hand man. He's been finalists for other jobs, Tennessee twice, and I think he would have had the Cardinals job a couple years ago, but he turned down that opportunity. Just from a timeline standpoint, the Jags got to get someone in place by this weekend. The Combine starts Tuesday, basically, with players arriving and starting to do their measurables and all of that. So I think he or whoever they hire could be hired at any moment. And obviously, if they do hire someone externally, like, then that person has to try and put together a staff pretty quickly, not necessarily by the Combine, but shortly thereafter. So the Jags are certainly behind the 8 ball because they decided to keep Trent Baalke for 3 weeks after the season and then ultimately decide to fire him because they realize we're not going to get a coach we want if we go that route. Mike Florio is on the opposite end of Jordan Schultz. He does not necessarily think that Ian Cunningham is going to get this job. He hopped on 670 The Score today and said, quote, I think the assistant GM, which is Ethan Waugh, in Jacksonville is going to get bumped up, and I think the rest of it is just for show. I think it's going to be a promotion, so I think Cunningham is going to be with the Bears until next year. Now, obviously, if Cunningham lands the Jags GM job, as we've discussed several times now, the Bears get 2 third-round compensatory draft picks. One this year, one next year. The advantage of that, of course, is just extra capital, extra chess pieces to draft players, move up in the draft, use them in a trade, whatever the case may be. Most draft analysts think day 2 is the sweet spot this year. So I've been in favor of rooting for Ian to get this job. A, because I think he's a good exec and deserves an opportunity. But B, I do think this would be a good offseason to get those picks started because, A, this is a big offseason for player acquisition for the Bears. And B, I think getting that 3rd-round pick this year is just even more valuable, especially since the Bears don't currently have a 4th-round pick. So it kind of gives you another pick in that range to help you in this draft. What say you if you had to predict it right now? Will Ian Cunningham get the Jags GM job? Type Y for yes, he will, or type N for no, he won't. It'd be interesting to see if he gets offered the job and then decides to pass on it like he did with Arizona. But for now, as we're filming this on Thursday afternoon, we do not have official word. How about this name in NFL free agency? I was looking around for some stories. It's kind of quiet today. I was like, you know what? Let's see what, kind of cheaper receivers are out there on the market if they do let Keenan Allen walk. And a guy we haven't talked about that I thought popped late in the year was Dyami Brown. I'll be honest. I did not realize he's already 4 years into his career. The Commanders' impending free agent. Obviously, you look at his career numbers. Nothing jumps off the page, right? He certainly had his best year this year with Jaden Daniels, which is promising for him to, get at least some money in NFL free agency. I don't think any team's going to break the bank for Dyami Brown, but he popped in the postseason. And I thought he played better down the stretch as well. I mean, he kind of was their number 2 receiver late in the year, especially in the playoffs. 16 yards a catch, and this is only 2 playoff games, by the way, so average over 100 yards a game, 14 catches in those games. Like, this is not just a guy who was like a role player in the playoffs. This is like a real high-level starter for what they were doing in Washington. Now, can this carry over? Can he be like a legit 2 or even a 3 on a 17-game basis? Well, you don't need a 2 because you have DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, but I do wonder if the Bears kind of go with a big 2 of Moore and Odunze and then just kind of like a receiver by committee approach after that. Let these guys duke it out for wide receiver 3. Don't invest a lot of money there. Get a few guys, maybe a Tim Patrick as well, follows Ben Johnson from Detroit. Maybe you draft somebody in the 3rd round or on day 3, Tyler Scott in there as well. And, hey, let the best man win. You got 3 or 4 guys sitting behind your top 2, and maybe it's a different man each week. I don't hate the idea if they want to go in that direction because I do want to get Cole Kmet back more involved. I think he kind of becomes your de facto 3rd guy anyway. And we know in a Ben Johnson offense, they're going to throw the ball to the running backs, especially if DeAndre Swift is here. We know he catches the ball well. So I don't mind Dyami Brown on like as a cheap 1-year deal to be a number 3, number 4 type of option, depth piece for this offense. I mean, get him for, I don't know, $4 million. I don't think it's going to cost that much. So I'm kind of in on this. I kind of talked myself into it because A, it's not going to cost a lot, and B, he kind of showed some upside. We kind of finally saw what he's capable of in this playoff run the Commanders had. What say you? Should the Bears sign Dyami Brown? Type S for sign or P for pass. Give us your thoughts in the comment section down below when it comes to the free agent to be a wide receiver. All right, we do have some FGB t-shirts available right now. Chatsports.com/FGB. Look at the shirt I'm rocking. Not this one, although I do have this one, but it's Chicago Bears football and whoever plays Green Bay, baby. We hate the Green Bay Packers here on this channel. If you're a true Bears fan, you do as well. And if you want to represent, get yourself a shirt. Chatsports.com/FGB. Link is in the comments and description of this video. Okay, real quick before we get out of here on this segment, the Bears have announced their full coaching staff, so it has been finalized. No real new hires other than what we've already talked about here on the show. This is a photo from the Bears press release. So full staff is there. So if you want to screenshot it and got to take a deeper dive on your own, feel free to do that. I think we covered all the last-minute hires, the promotion of Peter Notre, strength and conditioning, and a couple of quality control guys. So nothing really new in terms of that. We already knew who, obviously, the head coach, coordinators, major position coaches were. So it was kind of just dotting I's, crossing T's to finish out this staff. So the Bears coaching staff is set. And on paper, I think it's a pretty talented staff. I mean, you get a guy like Eric Bieniemy to be your running backs coach. He was getting head coach interviews a few years ago. You get Dennis Allen to run your defense. You get Al Harris, who's widely remarked as one of the best defensive back coaches in the game. Ben Johnson brings Antoine Randall down to be his assistant head coach and to work with the wide receivers. Like I think there's a lot to like here. Dan Rochar, the offensive line coach, comes with a lot of skins on the wall from his time with the Saints. So pretty excited. All we know is on paper right now, it's all projection until the games start. We're not going to know for sure, but you do feel pretty good about some of the names in that building working together to chase one goal. All right, if you're excited for the 2025 season, spam me down in the comments below. I can't wait for it to get started. Excited for the offseason first, don't get me wrong, but tell you what, once the draft is over and you get some of these OTAs going, I'm gonna get a little edgy, ready for training camp and the season to be here. So it'll be here before we know it, and we'll have you guys covered every step of the way. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. That way you never miss a video here on Chicago Bears Now. Content every single day. Hit that sub button. All right, we got Landon Meeks here saying, hey, are we concerned for Trey Smith after the bowl? He got destroyed by interior randoms like Williams. Anyways, love your content. What about Chubb and Swift? A lot here. First of all, he did not get destroyed in the Super Bowl. I wouldn't say he had a great game, but he was their second-best lineman in the Super Bowl after Creed Humphrey. Mike Caliendo at left guard, he got destroyed. I thought Trey Smith against Jalen Carter and specifically held up really well. I thought there were 2 reps that he clearly lost to Jalen Carter. Throughout the course of the game, he certainly got beat some, but I don't think he was the major problem. Joe Thuney finally got exposed for having to play tackle. Caliendo is not a player that can play in a Super Bowl, and he also plays next to Juwan Taylor at right tackle, who is just not very good. So I'm still all in on Trey Smith. I'm not hesitating there whatsoever. If anything, maybe it slightly drops the cost, which would be great, but as we've outlined on this show many times, the Bears got to be prepared to pay top dollar for Trey Smith. Okay, we do have a mailbag coming up. Hashtag Bears or Super Chat to get your questions answered here on the show. It is. Didn't even notice that. Producer Sam just stepped in here to fill in for Cullen for a couple of minutes. Who got recruited to go do something on Raiders real quick. Is that right? Is he hopping in?
Yes, he is drinking.
Okay. He got recruited to go drink on Raiders. It's our Raiders host's birthday, so they're having a little fun.
If you're being recruited to go on the Raiders report, it's not to go and sing a song or something like that. There's a pretty clear objective in mind.
That's good stuff. Zach Martin retiring. Sayonara, Zach.
Kind of expected, but
yeah,
still Hall of
Most
Famer.
people thought it was going that way. Yep.
Take him off the Bears free agent targets list.
Yeah, that's what I said earlier. I was like, no more 1-year Band-Aid option, Zach Martin.
Now you really need Trey Smith.
Brandon Scherf it is. All right. Do you want to? Are we waiting for him to start this? Okay. Yeah. If you want, let me see. Got a couple. There's if you want to hit.
Colin is currently shirtless in Studio A.
Okay. There you go.
That's.
Pull up the Raiders stream if you want to see shirtless Cullen. I know the ladies in the chat are very interested in that.
It's just another Thursday, really.
Yeah, it's just the Raiders report. How about you want to flash this Geezer super chat real quick? We can hit it again in the mailbag as well, but just while we're waiting on Cullen to end the shenanigans over on the Raiders.
That's Harrison's producer. That's not me. I think Harrison has started to influence this kid.
Just another Thursday on Raiders. Yeah. Bears minus 125 odds per Bovada for Trey Smith. I think if he hits the market, they're the favorites.
I mean, is there any
obviously
other?
the Chiefs if they try to re-sign him, but
You know better than
Patriots
me.
could
Is
offer
there
money.
any other team that's even remotely been linked as much as Chicago
I
has?
think the Patriots would offer money. They have a ton of cap and they need O-line help, but I do think if he leaves Kansas City, it's Chicago. That's my opinion.
That is interesting. You either get as no lineman, you get to choose between Ben Johnson, the fun new young head coach, or Mike Vrabel, who's gonna be one step away from punching you in the mouth himself.
Yeah, or take a discount with the Chiefs. But if I'm him, I'm not taking a discount. I was a 6th-round pick. This is my chance to get paid, baby. All right, Geezer, go big in the draft, hoping for more than a paper bear. Okay. What do you mean, go big, Geezer? What's going big in the draft, Geezer? What's going big in the draft, Geezer? Drop me some names. Jason says Cullen just won the chug contest. That's what we do, baby. We just produce talent here on Bears Now. We just get in the lab and we produce talent and winners on Bears Now. The Bears on the field may not be winning yet, but Bears Now, we produce winners, baby.
Everyone knows this is the pipeline. This is where the blue chip prospects come. This is the Georgia of chat sports.
That's right. That is absolutely. We don't rebuild, we reload.
We're fully in a reloading.
We reload here, baby. So
another one. We're retooling. We retool.
Yes, that is correct.
I believe Cullen is still. Nope, shirt's back on.
Get the Cullen chance. I heard you won the race. The chat's telling me. You beat Chugs?
2 times. That one was honestly as close to a tie as you can get.
I told him that. I said, that's what we do here on Bears Now. We just produce talent.
We do.
I found out today that Cullen's got a little something on the arm, a little something on the chest.
Yeah, here. Well,
have you had that the whole time? Yeah, Cullen's got tattoos. Did you know
You're
that?
tatted?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
What's the tat? That light is in my eye. I can't see anything.
Here he comes, shirtless onto this show
shirtless
now.
Cullen.
There we go. What's up, fellas?
You could almost turn that to an FGB here.
A little bit. So this one's my last name and then family over everything.
Love that. Family over everything, last name. What do we got here?
So this one's just live a life worth living. It's just
Oh,
something to be
nice.
seen here.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
get out to the beach.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'm learning a lot more about Cullen than
If I got
really
a tattoo,
expected
if
to
I ever
today.
got a tattoo other than FGB, what should I get?
Ooh, that's a good question. Let us know down below. Biggest super chat determines your tattoo.
What should I get as a tattoo if I ever get one?
Let me know what I got to do to get mine done live.
Super chat your
live.
tattoo ideas.
What I got to do to get mine done live in the chat sports lobby, a la Mitchell Wren's leg
Yeah,
sleeve.
our Raiders report host.
I've already got the design
Got an
and-
entire leg sleeve in the chat sports lobby like 2 years ago. He was live for the whole thing.
I mean, I'm not even going for a full sleeve. I've already got the symbol picked out. Won't take more than an hour and a half. Normal live show. You're doing segments in between.
Yeah. Won't take more than 3 hours. It's like a Chiefs report show. Old teacher. Emiliano says, get my name tatted. If I get a name tatted, it would be a family member's. It'd probably be my son, actually. Just a little PJ somewhere. Sports News says you should get a horned frog. That would be sick. That'd be sick. DJ Moore says, get me. Is that the real DJ?
Only if it's the real.
Go
DJ.
with the 4 verts photo. So just do my own silhouette.
Dude,
Love it.
The silhouette's sick.
It is sick, I will say. Shout out to our guy Arnold who put that together.
Yeah.
Get Mike H tatted on you. When's Ben Johnson's second interview? What do you mean?
Awesome.
Oh, his press conference. He should be talking at the combine next week. Well, and if he does, he will. We'll have that press conference here on the show because we'll have our combine team down there filming that for you guys. So, Harrison, you should get a bear down. You know, for the longest time, I was like, I'm not a tattoo guy. I'm never getting a tattoo. And if I had to bet, I probably never will. But as I've gotten older, I'm definitely more like open to the idea. If I ever just like felt the itch to really get one.
Fair.
Top donator tatted on you.
That's what I'm saying. That's a good way to determine it.
Oh man, just Michael Horowitz on my back. All right. Appreciate all of the banter. Hashtag Bears Super
Are we
Chat.
caught up on Super
Damien,
Chats, by
I
the
will
way?
not be getting that tattoo because I don't need that negative energy. And when he wins the Super Bowl for this city, you are going to feel silly. I hope that happens. That would be amazing. All right. Hashtag Bears Super Chat. Get your questions answered. Michael Ortman, you want to just flash that on screen real quick? Actually, no, you can use that in the mailbag because I'll turn that into a talking point. Trey Smith's sig other is from Chicago, baby. So we'll work that into the mailbag. All right, here we go. Hashtag Bears Super Chat. Fire in those questions. Time for another mailbag here on Chicago Bears Now. Oh, I love this username. Lombardi bound. I hope so. Could the Bears trade Tyreek Stevenson this offseason? Could they? Yes. Will they? I'd be surprised because A, his value is probably down after last season. And B, I still believe in the talent. I still believe in the player. I think Al Harris is the perfect coach to bring in here because he's a no-nonsense coach, but he's also a guy that played in this league for a long time with emotion. Reek has emotion as well. I think he's a guy that can get the most out of him and get him back on track. I still am a believer of Tyreek Stevenson. I love his physicality. I like his ball skills. Just got to build his confidence back up, and obviously he's got to eliminate some of the I don't want to say childlike behavior, but he's just got to mature a little bit. I don't want him to not be an edgy corner because I like that, but you got to know where the line is, and he crossed that line a few too many times last year. So I'm keeping Tyreek Stevenson. I still think him and Jalen Johnson could be an excellent outside corner pairing. Okay, what say you? Name a player that the Bears should trade away. Is there someone on this roster that you would like to trade to another team? If there is, let us know who it is. All right, super chat from Michael. He says Trey's wife is from Chicago. Yeah, I saw this going around on social media. Trey Smith's, I don't know if it's his wife or girlfriend, whatever the case may be. Bears Twitter going full FBI on us. She is from Chicago, apparently. So, hey, could be another angle for the Bears getting Trey Smith in free agency. Chicago, certainly a destination city. Simone Biles loves being in the city, so maybe Trey Smith's girl does as well. We would welcome the Smiths with open arms in Chicago, that is for sure. And I maintain, I think it's the Chiefs or the Bears. Either the Chiefs find a way to bring him back or the Bears get him in free agency. I really do think it's going to be one of those teams. Other teams will be interested. Other teams will offer money, but I do think it'll be one of those teams is where he ends up. Jake Kelly, what's the chances of the Bears moving up to get Gray Zabel? Like trading up from the second round to late first or something like that. There's certainly a chance. I think it depends what would happen in free agency. Like, have they not really addressed center, or have they maybe signed like a one-year guy and they think Zabel can be a long-term guy, or maybe they view Zabel as a guard? It really depends on the evaluation. If they think he's a first-round talent and he's sitting there in the mid-late 20s and they want to move up from one of their second-round picks to go get him, then yeah, that certainly could happen. Obviously, if you're going to trade up and move a day 2 pick to go get a player, then you need to feel conviction about that player you're going to get. So wouldn't rule it out. I think he's right on that round 1, round 2 fringe in terms of where he could go. I'd say as early as low 20s and as late as falling to the Bears 39 or 41. I think he'll be somewhere between 20 and 40. Okay, we are sponsored by Prize Picks here on today's show. The best daily fantasy sports app is Prize Picks, where you can get in on all the action and make money on daily fantasy sports. As, listen, all the sports are available. Basketball season is rolling along. Set your lineups today. 2 or more players. Pick more, pick less on the stats available. And if you hit, you win money. The deal we're offering you is this. Sign up with our link at prizepicks.com/CLNS. If you use our code CLNS, you'll get a $50 bonus when you sign up and play for just $5 right out of the gate. So definitely take advantage of that opportunity. Here's a lineup from the little hockey action here. If you're watching after Thursday, we'll see if I hit. Less on Connor McDavid. More on Connor. I'm going to mispronounce that. And then Matthew Thatchuk as well. I like the more on half a point. Like him to get in on scoring. So take advantage. 2 to 6 player lineups, 2 or more players. As long as it's on 2 or more different teams within those lineups, you can cross over sports within your lineups. You could have a hockey player, a basketball player, soccer player all in the same lineup if you want to at prizepicks.com/CLNS. 10 million users and counting in North America. You should be one of them. Check it out today. We got Landon Meeks with the $5. Appreciate it. He says, what do you think about Jair Alexander? And what about Nick Chubb, DeAndre Swift? He should be cheap with injuries. And if he balls, then hey, great move. Re-sign Keenan Allen. We'll start with that one. Not completely shutting the door on Keenan. I think it depends on price. I think the Bears will let him test the open market, see what's out there. If a team is willing to offer him a decent price tag for him to go back to the West Coast, I think they just let him go. If that number shrinks and they revisit it, I could see him being back. I personally would like to add more speed, but if the price is right, I'm not opposed to it. As far as Jair Alexander goes, if he gets cut by the Packers, which I think he will, I'm not opposed, but I think if you're doing that, you're basically saying that he's going to start over Tyreek Stevenson, which I guess is fine, but then you might as well trade Tyreek because he only has 2 years left on his rookie contract at that point, and Terrell Smith is a good backup. So I would not go that route. Alexander has had a ton of injuries over the last 4 years. In the last 4 years, he has 1 season where he played 16 games. The other 3, 4, 7, and 7. Hadn't even played half the game. So I would probably pass on that. As far as Nick Chubb goes, a loaded question here, getting your money's worth, Landon. He seems pretty cooked. I mean, if you want to bring him in for cheap, but to me, that's not like the 1-2 punch I keep referring to. Like, to me, that's like a take a flyer. If something happens, great. Like, I would still want to draft a running back if they sign Nick Chubb. John Orticelli, what plans does Poles have for drafting or signing a quality tight end to back up Kmet? Is Ertz available? Zach Ertz is available. I think they would look at more of a blocking tight end in free agency in particular. That is probably what I would do. I'm certainly open to Ertz. You could do some 12 personnel with him and Kmet. That certainly would be fun. At his stage in his career, 34, 35 years old, though, like, he's probably going to want to sign with a more surefire contender or just stay in Washington, I would guess. Could he return to Philly or something like that? I wouldn't rule that out. I just don't know if he would roll the dice on Chicago with a bit of uncertainty heading into next season in terms of how good this team could be. I think if a lot goes right, they could be really good like the Commanders were last year. If not, though, you know, a player like him at the amount of miles on his legs, he may not want to take that chance. Subscribe to Bears Now. We cover every single major piece of Bears news, rumors, draft, free agency coverage, trade buzz. You know the drill. If it's Bears related, I'm giving my takes on it. Sometimes you agree, sometimes you don't. That's where the banter comes in with these live shows. So hit that subscribe button. We have a good time here. Dennis, the Chicago kid. Appreciate the 5. If we trade down, get another second, who is a name we'd be interested in that we haven't talked about? Who is a day 2 guy that we haven't talked about that would be interested in? I think he's been mentioned, and stay tuned if you're watching live for my next mock draft, but I would not rule out drafting Xavier Watts in the second round. I think the Bears' safety position has bigger question marks than people want to admit, and you know, we all want to do trenches. I do too, obviously, but do not rule out a somewhat notable investment at safety, whether it be in the draft or free agency. Sports news, bring back Khalil Mack and sign Josh Sweat. That's redundant. I don't think you need both. I'd be open to either of those guys. I think some teams probably going to overpay on Sweat. I'm not sure what Mack's market will be, but if you sign one of those guys to pair with Montez Sweat, I certainly would not be opposed. I'd probably rather go Khalil Mack on a shorter-term deal and then try to find a long-term edge, whether it's in this draft or the next, in the draft. Josh Sweat, you know, he's not old, but he's 28, and you're going to have to pay him like a high-level starter. Feels a little risky to me. I'm not out on Josh Sweat, but if you're telling me it's north of $20 million per year, that might cause me to pass. Fill in the blank for us. The Bears will win blank games next season. It'll be 0-17. Unless we're talking playoffs, 0-20. Let us know how many games the Bears winning next year. Fill in the blank for us in the comments. Captain Bears hype man, in the world of landing Trey Smith and Drew Dahlman, how much would you spend on a vet free agent for left guard? I think in that situation, you're talking about 1-year guys, right? Because you could still just draft somebody, right? The Kevin Zeitlers, the Brandon Scherfs, Zach Martin just retired, so he's out. Those two are guys I would look at on 1-year deals. I wouldn't go into the double-digit figures. I wouldn't go north of $10 million on a 1-year deal for those guys. If you wanted to do like 2 years at 8 or 9 a year, 7, like 2 for 16 for one of those guys, I guess that's fine. But if you're doing that, you're already paying Trey Smith north of 20, Dahlman north of 10. Do you want to pay another starting offensive lineman north of 10? I'd rather just draft somebody, like re-sign Matt Pryor for cheap to be a high-quality backup, find a starter in the draft, and go that route. Alan Melendez, top left tackle options for the Bears this offseason. Well, I still think if I were a betting man, I would say Braxton Jones is this team's left tackle next year. I think he's more than serviceable. He's got 1 year left on his rookie contract, so you got a cheap starting left tackle for 1 more year. Then you reevaluate next year. But if you wanted to sign a free agent, there's 3 names I think worth monitoring. Ronnie Stanley for the Ravens, Alaric Jackson from the Rams, and Cam Robinson from the Vikings. I'm out on Robinson. I think he and Braxton are very similar, and Cam's going to cost north of $15 million per year, so I would just keep Braxton Jones. I think Jackson and Stanley are upgrades, but are they massive upgrades to the point where you give Stanley north of $20 million given his injury history? Jackson probably at $18 to $20 million. I'd rather put money on the interior of the offensive line and draft a guy that could be your left tackle long term. There's guys you could draft that are kind of twofold. There's a few of these where you start them at left guard as rookies and maybe they take over at left tackle long term. Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, a couple of guys that could fit that mold. So I think Braxton will probably be the week 1 starter, but it wouldn't shock me if they looked elsewhere either. All right, give me a follow on social media. It's at HGramNFL, both on Twitter and on Instagram. DMs are wide open. I know I got to catch up on Instagram, but I will do that. Ask me your questions. We could talk ball anytime you guys want, so find me over there.
It says, get Justin Fields is not the answer, and please stop talking about him tatted on you.
That's funny.
Oh, man.
I don't really talk about Fields anymore on this show. I'm talking about him on 4 Verts because that's an all-NFL show, and he's a free agent quarterback, and it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up, but yeah, I don't really. I'll say this, too, to y'all's credit. There's still a portion of Bears Twitter that talks about him a lot. Most of you guys have moved on. Now, there's still a few in there, and Cullen goes through my comment section a lot.
Yep.
And would you say it's lessened, though, the last couple months with, like, the hiring of Ben Johnson? Yeah. Like, there's still a few in there, but I think people are just kind of like, all right, let's turn the page. Let's get this going. There will always be a few, but Oh, Sean the Savage. Thoughts about Jordan Mason at running back?
Yeah, sorry.
I think he's restricted, so the Niners could match an offer for him, but he's pretty intriguing, I would say, because he was very good last year for San Francisco. So if you did not want to go the draft route, again, like, even though he's good, I'd rather just draft somebody. I just love this draft at running back. Oh, excuse me. Love this draft at running back. All right, are we doing Cullen's crush now or after the next segment?
I was going to say, I mean, we got mock draft coming up. You know, believe it or not, when you were scripting this, you typed out wide receiver, and there was a small part of me, because it's around where this guy's going to go, that I thought you may have actually, for like the first time, like, beat me to my crush, because normally I try to get players that you don't talk about.
Okay. I know nothing about this guy.
Oh, well, you're about to.
All right, let's hear it. Cullen's crushes, baby.
All right, so the thought process, right, is, all right, we need to get a speed wide receiver. Jameson Williams, if you will. Jameson Williams is 6'1", 180 pounds. If you look at this guy's frame, Keandre Lambert-Smith, 6'1", 182 pounds. So, you know, in that ballpark. He's fast, man. He legit is a 4.3 guy that could push 4.2 speed. He has, fun fact about him, he has the longest reception in Rose Bowl history. when he was a Penn State Nittany Lion.
Oh, really?
At 88 yards. He was a 4-year starter there. Ultimately didn't work out. James Franklin and him, I guess, just didn't see eye to eye. He transfers to Auburn. Not really a pass-heavy program. And lights it up for nearly 20 yards a catch.
I was going to say, that's what stands out to me looking at the numbers, almost 20 yards a pop.
Yeah, and, I mean, he's a burner, man. He really is. Like I said, he's got that 4.3 speed. Again, potentially 4.2. His ability to go up and get kind of jump balls and go balls, because he does have a limited route tree, is kind of underrated. He showed it a little bit at the Shrine Bowl, and he makes tough contested catches. You know, based on the limited, that I've seen from him, he looks like he could be a guy that can play outside or in the slot. I mean, he's played more on the outside, but he's some guy that you could obviously, rotate in and out. And just overall, impressive, just development. Kind of year over year, he got better each year. And again, went to Auburn where they don't really pass the ball. And Keandre Lambert-Smith, I think he's going to be a guy that goes potentially 5th, 6th round or so. He has a lightning quick shuttle time, under 4 seconds, like 3.83.
Combine warrior, baby.
He is a guy that can really take the top off the field. And again, if the Bears, let's say they, sign a Dyami Brown and they just want to, add another receiver into the room, maybe a late round draft pick, this guy's perfect for that scenario. Oh, by the way, did I forget to mention, he's from Virginia. He actually helped lead his high school to their only state title in like 80 years.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's the deep research you get here at Collins Crushes.
Oh, and by the way, his uncle is former Super Bowl champion, 2-time All-Pro camp chancellor. But again, it's just something, something I saw there.
There's a little Seahawks connection there for you.
There's a reason he may be one of my favorites. So,
yeah, I like that.
Keandre Lambert-Smith, again, just a guy that if you're looking for, make this very clear, he's not Jameson Williams, but Jameson Williams light, like extra diet, value brand, whatever you want to call it. I think this guy could potentially be a fit for the Bears. So, yeah, here's my pick.
Did he, I don't know if this was in your research, so if I put you on the spot and you don't, that's, I'll take the L on that one. Did he return kicks or punts at all in college?
I don't believe he did. That was not part of my research, but,
Let's pull up the old reference page real quick.
Wouldn't shock me if he did, like I said, with his burning speed, but, yeah.
Let's see. I'm not seeing anything here.
I don't think he was. I mean, he was, used for Penn State. Hold on, I'm going to try to find the stat because he was actually, a decent receiver at Penn State. He just, like I said, didn't work out. Yeah, he was like the 19th player to eclipse 100 career receptions while he was at Penn State. Again, just didn't work out with him and James Franklin. But yeah, really impressive.
Yeah, I don't see any return. Yeah, he was never a returner.
No. So I don't. Okay. So again, he would be just a receiver. Maybe I don't know, develop him that way, but
he'd be a gunner on special teams.
Yeah. Again, all right. Just an option.
I like it. Collins Crushes. What position do you guys want next Monday?
I was about to say we got to figure that out.
Drop a position. Where are we going next?
Yes. Okay. So we've done this one. We did get a super chat though. Appreciate all the love and everything. As we got Michael.
If Deebo gets cut, would you sign? He doesn't really. If it was, I go back and forth because he's a guy you can just get the ball in space, but he's not much of a route runner. DJ Moore does a lot of what he does at this point. Probably just does it better. Honestly, I don't know, man. Like, what do you think? He gets cut tomorrow. What's he getting on a new contract?
I would not pay him $10 million.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if it was less than $10 million on a 1 or 2 year deal, like, okay, like 2 for 18, like, but like, I could see some team like the Patriots just here's $15 million. Like, I'm not doing that.
I think he's a guy that you can't trust to play a full season. He's going to be a rental.
He's not going to beat corners one-on-one consistently.
No, and he's just kind of a weird weapon. Like, he doesn't have like a natural fit. I'd pass. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, he's got a lot of wear and tear too. Yeah, I mean, if his market really dried up, but there's going to be teams that are interested. Like at least one team's giving him $10 million. I mean, Gabe Davis got 3 for $39 last offseason.
It's true.
Someone would give Deebo some money.
New salary cap just dropped. Maybe he is a $10 million. Even with the new cap, I'm not paying him 10.
Would you keep Keenan over him? I probably would. Yeah,
I would 100% keep Keenan.
Cooper Kupp or Deebo?
Kupp, by far.
By far, wow.
I just, dude, like Deebo to me, like
I might go.
His game to me is, again, being versatile, being able to be explosive. Not, like you said, the best route runner, not the best pure.
He lost some juice last year.
Being a yards after catch guy or run after contact. He just, dude, like I think his best years are behind him.
I do too. I mean that's true with all three of those guys I just mentioned.
I would take Kupp. I would take Kupp.
Yeah, I'd have to think about that more. Probably come down to money for me, but yeah, I don't know. I'd rather go younger and faster for a third guy who's really probably going to be more like a fourth guy because Komet and the running backs. I mean, yeah, I'd probably just want to go speed.
Yeah,
I'd rather go like Tutu Atwell for half or a third of the price. Dyami Brown even. I don't know. He randomly popped in the playoffs, and I was like, might be a little something there.
I was. It was so random too because again, it was against the Lions. I'm pretty sure with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who he's one of the many names that Amon-Ra St. Brown like recites to himself. 4 games and,
that he torches Detroit.
Yeah, he finally has a good game against them. So,
Lordy,
I know it's been a long, weird day today.
Yeah, I didn't sleep that well last night either, so it's it's all good. All right, 2 more segments. Got a lot to get to here. We got my latest mock draft, and then not building a perfect O-line, but perfect offseason O-line plan. Got that cooked up for you guys as well. So plenty to come here on Chicago Bears Now. With the NFL Combine set for next week, figured, hey, it is time for a new mock draft. All 7 rounds, mock draft 7.0. We're approaching double digits. I don't think we're getting to 25 like last year, but 15, I could see that very well being in the cards. Let's go ahead and dive right on in here. I'm Harrison Graham. This is Bears Now. Round 1, pick number 10, Will Campbell, the offensive lineman out of LSU. And I think the most common, pick for the Bears at 10 if he's there is Will Campbell because I think there's a decent chance he's there, although recent mocks would suggest maybe he doesn't get to 10, but I think if he does go there, it's a very good pick. And it's not like an outrageous, unlikely scenario like Abdul Carter or something like that. I did want to mention something Dane Brugler wrote up about Will Campbell. He's his top offensive line prospect. He says, quote, Campbell stays balanced in pass protection using his weight distribution and controlled technique. Although he could do a better job protecting versus inside and counter moves. He plays rugged in the run game and offers the body and fluidity and explosive power to torque and displaced defenders. If I were running an NFL team, I'd be keeping him at tackle until I have a reason to move him inside to guard. Now, for the Bears, at least in year 1, Braxton Jones could be that reason to start him at guard. You can slide him in at left guard. Jones and Wright are your tackles, and then ideally in free agency, you've signed Trey Smith and Drew Dahlman, or at least one of those guys, and 80% of your offensive line is filled, and you need one more guy. So I like the Campbell idea because it gives you flexibility. If for some reason, if you want to upgrade for Braxton Jones, and you think Campbell's that guy, you can do that. If you want to keep Braxton Jones and play this year out and play Campbell at guard, you can do that as well. Will Campbell, definitely a guy to watch the Combine, especially with that arm length. 3-year starter at left tackle in the SEC, including as a freshman at LSU. Pretty damn impressive. All right, round 2, pick number 39. A player we haven't talked about a ton, but someone that I think should be on the Bears' radar with these round 2 picks. That is TJ Sanders, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. He is an excellent pass rusher. His pass rush win rate is over 13%, I believe, this past year. For sure over 12, maybe over 13. This defensive tackle class is fascinating. If I'm the Bears, I got to come away with the defensive tackle with one of my first 4 picks because there's 41 of them that got invited to the Combine compared to last year, 25. It's a deep group. It's a talented group, and it's a pick your flavor. If you want more of a run stopper, go get Alfred Collins. If you want a guy who can rush the passer on day 2, get a TJ Sanders. If you want to swing big in the first round, you could get a guy like Walter Nolan. If you want to trade back in round 1, you could get a Derek Harmon. Like, there's going to be guys available in all the different areas the Bears are picking on days 1 and 2. With the 10th pick, 39 and 41, and then also at 72, the Bears could find someone as well. I think Sanders, early day 2, good value, really good pass rusher, and kind of a fun combination to throw in there with Jervon Dexter with certain packages that Dennis Allen could deploy in his pass rush sets. Okay, if you want more Bears mock drafts and just more Bears draft coverage in general, hit that subscribe button. We'll have a ton of content from Indy this week. I'm not able to make the trip to Indianapolis, but we have a full team of Chat Sports going out there, and we'll have plenty of clips and content from players that we will share with all of you. So subscribe. That way you can get all of that content. Okay, just 2 picks later. Maybe a surprise, not going trenches or even running back here. Xavier Watts, the safety out of Notre Dame. The more I think about this, I think safety has to be on our radar, guys. You look at this safety room. Kevin Byard. 1, he could be a salary cap cut candidate. I would not cut him. $8.5 million. I'm fine absorbing that this year because of the second guy here, Jaquan Brisker, who missed the final 12 games last year with a concussion. But there's a scenario where both these guys could be gone. There's also a scenario where both are here. But even, let's say the best case scenario, both are here, they both play all 17 games and are good. There's a real scenario that neither are here long term. Both are going to be free agents after this next year. Xavier Watts, A, would provide insurance, and B, is also a hell of a talent that on day 2 is really good value. He's a ball hawk. He can play both safety spots. 13 interceptions over the past 2 seasons. I really like what he brings to the table. And again, I don't view this safety room as a position group that has long-term options. Elijah Hicks is a fine backup. Jonathan Owens is an okay backup. If Brisker's healthy, if you told me the concussion issue went away, yeah, I'd give him a second contract. I don't know how you could do that even if he has a healthy year next year. So I think safety is an area they may have to address here. I don't think you have to do it this early, but I like the value of Watts on day 2. And if you draft him here, I do wonder if maybe at that point you would consider cutting Kevin Byard, or if you just roll, hey, we're going to roll with these 3 safeties and let the best 2 win. And chances are, if Brisker's on this team, he's going to miss some time, unfortunately. That's where Xavier Watts comes into play. And then long-term, he's obviously a starter as well. Okay, round 3, pick number 72. I'm going to take Jared Wilson, the Georgia center. Producer Cullen, one of Cullen's draft crushes. Wilson out of Georgia. He's probably the top pure center in this draft, and what I mean by that, a guy that played exclusively center this past year. Now, he's only a 1-year starter. He was behind Cedric Van Pran, who we mocked to the Bears a lot last year, but I think he's much better than Van Pran. He's a better athlete, has better upside, and has guard flexibility. He's played some snaps at guard in college. I think he's big enough to do that, so you could play him at guard as well. He graded out pretty well last year per PFF, did not allow a sack per their data. So even though he's only a 1-year starter, he played very, very well for the Bulldogs in the SEC this past season. I view this as if they don't get Drew Dahlman, because if you get Drew Dahlman, that's probably at least a 3-year contract, if not 4. If they miss out on him or decide they don't want to sign him to a long-term deal and pay that money, maybe they re-sign a Coleman Shelton, or they have a Ryan Bates, and they want to draft somebody like this on day 2 to either A, start or compete for the job, or you're a backup for 1 year and you take over in 2026. It's possible Wilson needs a year in the NFL because he's only a 1-year college starter, but his athletic profile checks out. I think he's got a pretty good ceiling at the center position. Okay, so there are the day 1 and day 2 picks here. Will Campbell in round 1, TJ Sanders and Xavier Watts in round 2, and then the Georgia center, Jared Wilson, in round 3. Again, all situational. If you sign Drew Dahlman, you're probably not then drafting Jared Wilson. But if you don't, I think Jared Wilson could be an option at the center position in this draft. So what say you? Your favorite pick from rounds 1 through 3 in this mock draft so far. If you had to pick one guy, who is your favorite selection that I've made? Also, get yourself an FGB t-shirt. Right now, chatsports.com/FGB. Link is right there. Plenty in stock available for you guys to purchase. So if you hate the Packers as much as I do, whoever plays Green Bay, you guys know, get yourself an FGB shirt. Links in the comments and description. Go ahead and shop today. Okay, day 3 now as we continue with our mock draft 7.0. Ollie Gordon, who I don't know if he'll fall this far, but I do think at this point, if you ask me, does he get to day 3 of the draft? I would say probably yes, because I think enough of these other running backs in this draft have risen above him based on how they played this year. So someone's going to slide down, and a few guys are. And I think Ollie Gordon could. So I think there is a chance he's sitting there in the 5th round. And people wonder, like, well, what happened this year? I mean, his rushing total was less than half than the year before. It's not like he was bad. He still averaged 4.6 yards per carry. It's not like he completely plummeted. But obviously, coming into this season, it was like if he has another huge year, he could be in the mix to be RB1. That is clearly not the case. Now, I still think he is very talented. I still think he could be a very good pro. I think he's an underrated catcher of the football. He was 6'1", 233 at the Senior Bowl. He's a physical one-cut-and-go back. I like what he brings to the table. This reminds me a lot of the Chuba Hubbard situation. Remember Chuba Hubbard, who ironically also went to Oklahoma State, went back to college when he was probably going to be a first or at worst a second-round pick. Production dipped, fell to the 4th or 5th round. He's been a very good pro, has already gotten a second contract from Carolina. I think that could very well be the case here for Gordon. I don't think he's like a Saquon Barkley, but I think he could be a guy that ends up being a starter in the NFL, and we look back and it's like, yeah, we probably overthought that one. Like, the tape from the year before is fantastic. That Oklahoma State season kind of fell apart. The O-line was awful. They couldn't pass the ball. Teams were just stacking the box on him, and he wasn't as productive. I still think he's a pretty damn good player. Day 3, I think the value is really, really good. All right, Luke Lachey, the tight end out of Iowa, can block a little bit, can catch a little bit. Those Iowa tight ends typically pan out well if you get them in the 6th round. He's a tight end 3 type probably as a rookie. I think that's pretty good value. Johnny Walker Jr. round 7, not going to spend too much time here, but had 10 sacks last year, at least per PFF's data collection. Pretty damn good. Graded out well for them. Again, you get this late in the draft, you get guys with some traits. He's got that. And then his teammate, ironically, the transfer from Oklahoma, Theo Weiss Jr., had almost 900 yards, so he could be a guy you take a flyer on in the 7th round, have a chance to push for a roster spot. So there you have it. Gordon, Lachey, Walker, and Weiss round out this mock draft. Didn't do any trades in this one. Little pre-combine mock for you guys. Drop us a letter grade in the comments. How did we do in our latest mock draft? A, B, C, D, or F. Want to get some new names in there, which I tried to do in this mock as well. So let us know how we did. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you want more draft content, if you want more mock drafts, full scouting combine coverage next week with hearing from prospects. There will be rumors around the league circulating from the combine because all 32 teams are there. The agents are there. It's kind of just information kind of spillage, if you will. So should be a fun week, and we'll have it all covered here at Bears Now. Colbert's giving me a D. So is Cornell. Ron says F. No Genty. I'll say this. Someone had the super chat earlier. If the Bears sign 3 starters in free agency, like let's say they go with Trey Smith, Drew Dahlman, and then let's say Kevin Zeitler comes down as well. In that scenario, I could see the Genty thing because you've got probably all your starters in the offensive line. And then maybe you draft a left tackle on day 2 to compete with Braxton Jones, like Ariante Ursary or someone like that. Maybe you get a depth piece like a Gray Zabel who sits for 1 year, then takes over for Zeitler or whoever that 1-year left guard is, Brandon Scherf. So, I've said all along, I'm not completely against Genty at 10. If you do it, though, it better not be at the complete sacrifice of your offensive line. That's all I've said. But they fill those spots, or at least fill 2 of them, and get a guy on day 2 that they feel good about starting, I'm not completely against it. I've kind of come to the conclusion, Colin, if Genty is like the worst case scenario, like he's going to be a good pro. So it's not like it would be a bad pick, but I just don't want to sacrifice a premium trenches selection if you're not in good standing in the trenches before that pick.
Yeah, I agree with a lot with what you said. I think Genty, too, like, he's not the caliber of running back as good as Genty is. Like a Saquon, like a Bijan, where it's like independent of circumstance, like the guy's still going to produce. He, to me, is kind of more, again, credit to Jeremy Chugs who says this, more in the, Jahmyr Gibbs kind of territory in terms of caliber back. Like, clearly Jahmyr Gibbs is a talented player, but it benefits that he plays arguably behind the best or second best offensive line in football. So if you fix the O-line, draft Ginty, there are worse scenarios, like you said.
I agree with that. I do think he's closer to a Bijan than people would think. Like, I think one thing he's definitely better at than Bijan is contact balance. I think he bounces off tacklers much more effectively. Now, he's probably not quite as explosive. He's probably not quite the pass catcher. I do agree, though, he's not a Saquon. He's not a McCaffrey. But I think there's a scenario where he's a top 8 running back in this league for 5-6 years. I think that's definitely a possibility. But, again, like, what you don't want is drafting him, and then you realize by week 4, oh, we still have 2 weaknesses on the offensive line. So, it's all about roster construction and balance and where the Bears feel like that upfront unit is. And who knows, maybe they just load up on offensive linemen in free agency. I think they're at least probably going to sign 2 guys. So we'll see what they end up doing. Is Isaiah Bond from Texas worth an early third? I think 72 I'd be okay with for Bond. I would not use one of those second-round picks.
No. His production does not.
I think he's a third, fourth-round guy.
Yeah.
I think, though, he's worthy of a swing in the third round for a team because he has tremendous speed. I think he's underrated as a route runner. And, last year he was trying to play through an ankle issue, and he kind of just got phased out of that offense. I still think as a secondary weapon on an offense, he can be pretty damn explosive. Like, I would not rule out him being like a poor man's Jameson Williams. Like, I think that could happen.
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely got a lot of talent. Third round seems to be about where he's going in a lot of mocks, too. And I think that's fair, 72. Obviously, the Bears lone third-round pick, so or at least for now.
If they get that comp, if you get that comp from Cunningham and get him in the 90s or wherever that pick would come in, I'd like that even more. So, yeah, I think late day 2, early day 3. Bears don't have a 4th right now, so I don't think you're getting them in the 5th round. But yeah, I think 72 would be fine. That would probably be like the early part of his window for me. But I don't think that's like you're over-drafting him there. Like, I think that would be fine. David, Jalen Royals, wide receiver, Malachi Moore, safety, Luke Lachey, players I'm interested in. I haven't looked a ton into this Royals kid, but I know people like him. He's Utah State, right?
Utah State.
What type of receiver is he?
He's a decent, receiver, kind of a do-it-all. When I was looking actually for, the crush this week, I did look at some of his film and everything. He's not going to be the fastest runner. I think he's more of like a 4.5, 4.6 guy. But he's improved. He's more outside than he is inside, although he did play 64 slot snaps last year. Just kind of a do-it-all, really solid receiver.
He was listed at about 5'11 and a half at the Senior Bowl, 210. So he's not like a wiry guy. Like, he's got some thickness to him. I need to look into him. I'd be BSing if I kind of was like, oh yeah, this is the type of prototype he is. But I know that some people feel like he's a day 2 player. So Malachi Moore is probably day 3. Lachey as well. So those would be my thoughts, David.
Yeah, he's estimated to run, like 4.4.
4.4, 4.5, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, he's solid. Kind of a yards after catch guy. He's kind of a vertical threat a little bit. Okay.
How many yards per catch last year?
Let's see. Stats. Sorry, my laptop's like slow. I'm doing this on my phone.
So his last 2 years.
15.2. Okay.
15.2 exactly the last 2 years. So he actually had a better year in 2023 when he had 71 catches, 1,080 yards, 15. Well, he only played 7 games this year, and he still had 834 and 6 touchdowns. So he actually, from a per game basis, had a better year this year. So I have to look into this kid.
Yeah, had 1,000 yards in 2023. If
he played a full season this year, he probably would have had about 12 or 1,300.
Yeah.
So 21 touchdowns past 2 years. 21 touchdowns in his last 20 games. So he's finding the end zone.
That he is. I'm looking at player comps. Apparently, he's likened to Malachi Corley, Jalen Polk, and Tez Walker. First three.
None of those guys have done much so far. So
Now again, smaller school prospect and everything, but yeah.
All right, I'll look into him more.
Interesting.
Yeah, Marcus, we got this news earlier. I think it was a long shot from Zach Martin for the Bears. He was pretty beat up by the end of last year, so I'm not surprised. He'll go to the Hall of Fame one day. Good for him.
Yeah. I will say they did say linebackers, so linebackers who I'm going to be doing on Monday.
All
so
right. Sounds good.
we did get another super coming in here, and then we can get into our final segment
All right.
from the Notcast.
Why are all the chat sports channels different names reporting out today? Why not do them all the same? Also bring back Israel Donaji. Who is this? I'm trying to remember. He was with the Bear. I think you mean as a coach. Do you mean as a coach? He was a Bears defensive lineman.
Yeah, he says it edge. He corrected himself in the chat. Yeah.
So you meant as a you confused me with IOL. He was a defensive lineman in the early mid 2000s. Is he coaching now? Okay. Either way, the reason for the channel names, there's not like I wouldn't say there's like a specific reason, but just to mix it up. Not to have every show be the exact same name. Bears report, Packers report. But yeah, we rotate a few different ones, but
yeah, breakdown.
sometimes there's
today.
alliteration usage, like there's the Bills breakdown,
Ravens rundown.
Ravens rundown. So yeah, I don't think it really matters that much, but that's why. All right, let's get to our final segment here, and then
We got one more.
oh,
Super chat.
Cornell's firing one away.
This actually kind of has to do with the segment coming up, so.
Yeah, I have not given up on Karan, but I don't think you can enter this offseason with him in mind as a starter for this year. We'll get to my O-line plan. I think he's a guy that I would try at some different positions in the offseason. Like give him some reps at guard, give him some reps at tackle. I doubt he can play center, but if you want to try him there, get him some reps there. So, not giving up. He's got the measurables. Here's the thing. Here's the good news with Amagaji. This will be his first healthy NFL offseason. So, strength and conditioning program, get in the weight room, really work on the technique with hopefully a personal coach he's working with and all that stuff. So, he didn't have any of that last year. He's still recovering from injury. So, not punting, but I am not operating as if he's a starter in 2025. I just don't. I don't think that's a way you can operate. So, all right, let's get into my final segment. Cullen alluded to it, a little O-line talk. So, stay tuned. All right, we're going to dive into my perfect offseason offensive line plan coming up here on Chicago Bears Now with the scouting combine around the corner and free agency just after that, and then the draft. We're losing our sub battle. The Commanders report. No, we lost at the Hail Mary. Not going to lose again. Hit that subscribe button. Let's take down Sperry and the Commanders. And if you want free content, just subscribe. All right, I'm Harrison Graham, and on today's show, I outline my perfect Bears offensive line plan. That, I think, is realistic enough. Like, I'm not trading for the 5 best offensive linemen in the league or anything like that. So that's my plan today, a little 5-stepper for you guys. Here's where the O-line sits right now. You've got Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright at each tackle spot. They're on your roster. All your interior starters are impending free agents. Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton, Matt Pryor, Jake Curran, Doug Kramer, Larry Borum, Bill Murray, all various free agents, some unrestricted, some restricted, and exclusive rights free agents. So some of those guys could certainly be back. But you could make the argument that at minimum you need 2 new starters, but up to 4. 3 feels like the sweet spot for the Bears this offseason. So do you get 1 or 2 in free agency, 1 or 2 in the draft? Do you get all 3 in free agency and get depth in the draft? We'll see what the approach ends up being for Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson, but both acknowledged at the end of the season and once they hired Johnson that they got to get better up front. So I expect a pretty heavy investment in the offensive line this offseason. Okay, step number 1. Shouldn't surprise anybody. Sign Trey Smith. I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse. I know, there's these graphs on Twitter that suggest maybe he's not as good as we think. Just trust the eyes. Trust the production. He's been a really, really good player for a really, really good team for 4 years that resulted in 2 Super Bowls. Obviously, one player doesn't make a Super Bowl, but Trey Smith has been a very good player for the Kansas City Chiefs. You should be comfortable throwing a lot of money at him because a player of this caliber rarely hits the open market. And as of now, it looks like he probably will because the Chiefs have tough decisions to make. And if you bring this guy in, A, you reunite college teammates Darnell Wright and Trey Smith. They overlapped at Tennessee. And B, to me, your right side, you got 2 cornerstones for years to come. Darnell Wright has 2 years left in his rookie deal plus a 5th-year option. Trey Smith, I would assume, gets at least a 4-year contract, if not 5. You don't even have to worry about those 2 guys for, at minimum, the next 2 to 3 years, if not longer. Get it done. Get them in here. Pay up. Make him the highest paid guard in the league. That's what it's going to take. That's what you should do. Cap's going up. Shouldn't worry about it. And that is step number 1. Would you make Trey Smith the highest paid offensive guard in the NFL? Type Y for yes. Type in for no. I would. Is it an overpay? Probably slightly. That's the cost of doing business. He's a top 10 guard. You make him the highest paid. It's fine. Step number 2, sign Drew Dahlman. I think Smith and Dahlman should be priorities in free agency. And if you can get both, that's a hell of a job. It really, really is. This is my contract projection for Dahlman. I think he's probably getting about $12 million a year. It's a lot. This is probably a bit more of an overpay than Trey Smith, if I'm being honest, because there's only 32 centers in the league that start. And Dahlman, he's probably a fringe top 10 guy. He's one of the better run blocking centers in the NFL. He's average to above average as a pass blocker. He's not great there, but you can live with that because he's pretty damn good overall. And look, if you're the Bears, if you got to overpay for a center that's at least one of the 10 or 11 best in the NFL, probably just do it because how many different centers are we going to trot out there year in and year out? I mean, I've been covering this team just since 2020. If I had to guess off the top of my head, there's probably been 6 or 7 different centers that have started. I mean, I could probably count them out. We've seen guys like Sam Mustipher start, Cody Whitehair, Lucas Patrick, obviously Coleman Shelton. Ryan Bates didn't start a game at center, but he was in the plans there for a little bit as well. Did I say Sam Mustipher? I think I did. So 5 right here. James Daniels, that's 6. I mean, it's been a lot. There's been a lot. If you can get a guy that's at least solid for 3 or more years, I would just do it and let that relationship grow between him and Caleb Williams. Like, that's what I would do if I was the Chicago Bears. Subscribe if you want full Bears offseason coverage. We're talking the draft. We're talking free agency. We're taking your questions. We're going live 2 or more times per week. We're publishing 2 or more videos per day. Tons of coverage. Trade rumors as well. Don't miss out. We got you covered. Okay, number 3. Draft Will Campbell. I'd say it's probably a little less than 50-50 he falls to number 10, so you'd have to have backup plans. Tyler Booker could be that. You could go Armand Mimbo for that. You could take a Kelvin Banks. There's other options. I think Campbell's the best of both worlds because I think he's just really safe, and I like that you could kind of have a long-term plan with him from a positional standpoint. I think if you get him at 10, it's a home run pick. I grand slam, like if Mason Graham was there, that would be unbelievable. That's very unlikely. Campbell, I think there's at least a decent chance that he gets there. So I think it'd be a home run pick based on what you need and based on value as well, just in terms of the big board at the top of this draft. And what would be nice is probably you would start him at left guard his rookie year. And he's got the versatility to do that. And then, if Braxton Jones isn't your long-term answer, we'll get to him into this conversation as well. Will Campbell can kick out there in 2026. Hell, if you just think he's a stud left tackle right away and want to start him there, okay, cool. Then you plug and play someone else at left guard, or maybe Braxton Jones plays inside, although I don't think he has an anchor to play guard. So you would have to figure out what your plan is for Braxton Jones. But the point is, Will Campbell can do different things, and he gives you versatility and options in terms of the cliche phrase of let's get our best 5 out there. He'd probably be a better left tackle than Braxton Jones. But if you're playing your best five, Braxton Jones at left tackle, Will Campbell at left guard, that's probably an easy way to accomplish that in 2025. Who is your dream target with the number 10 pick? Look, like if Abdul Carter was there, I would take him. But dream that is still at least somewhat realistic among the guys that continue to be rumored in that range. You're talking the Will Campbells, the Ashton Genties, a Michael Williams, an Armand Mimbo, a Kelvin Banks, whoever the case may be. Let us know who that player is. All right, step 4. I would re-sign Matt Pryor. I thought Matt Pryor showed a lot of guts, improvement, selflessness in terms of doing whatever the team asked. I'm not as high on him as PFF was. I mean, if you just take PFF's raw grades, those are starting level grades. I think he's a low-level starter, serviceable starter, good backup because he could play every single spot in the offensive line except center. I think he's a better guard than tackle. I think last year proved that. But in a pinch, he could be your swing tackle. He's an excellent backup guard. If he has to start, like say you lose a guard for a month and he has to start, you're not like panicking over that. Like this isn't Mike Caliendo in the Super Bowl against the Eagles who has no chance to block somebody. Like Matt Pryor can at least hold up, right? Like I thought he did a pretty admirable job last year. Is he perfect? No. Can speed guys beat him? Yes. But as a top backup, a number 6 offensive lineman, I like that with his versatility. And this is noteworthy. If you really watch the Lions close, what did they do a lot? They would bring a 6th lineman onto the field, especially in the red zone and on the goal line, quite a bit. Dan Skipper played a lot for Detroit. I think Matt Pryor could be that guy where, hey, let's bring in an extra lineman. Hey, let's line this guy up at fullback to blow someone off the ball. Like, he could do, Johnson, I'm talking about, creative things with Matt Pryor, an extra offensive lineman, and you would just trust him to do the job. Like, you're not worried about him not knowing what to do. So I like the idea of bringing him back. It shouldn't cost too much money. Now, maybe some team signs him as a starter, and if he does, hey, good for Matt Pryor. Like, I'm not bringing him back to be a surefire starter, but as a top backup, yeah, I like the idea of that. And then number 5, I would draft an offensive lineman, specifically a tackle in this scenario with upside. Day 2, early day 3. Kind of like the Bears did with Karan Amagaji last year. Ideally not a small school guy, though. Like, I'm looking at this crop of players. Guys that'll be available on day 2 or day 3. Maybe 1 or 2 of these guys sneaks into round 1. But like Ariante Ursary, we've taken him in a couple mocks. That's a guy. Go compete with Braxton Jones. If you're not ready as a rookie, you could be a backup. Cameron Williams probably needs a year to redshirt, but really talented kid with a lot of physical tools. Go be a backup, get in the Dan Rochar program, and maybe you compete for a starting job in 2026. Ozzie Trapillo, interesting guy at right tackle. Anthony Belton, interesting player as well. Emory Jones, who had a really bad season and did not look good at the Senior Bowl, but maybe on day 3, just get him into your building and try to develop him. Coming into this 2024 college football season, he was viewed as a potential first-round pick. I don't know what happened at LSU this year with him. Obviously, Will Campbell is still viewed as a first-round pick. Jones is not. Again, I don't know what happened. But clearly there's talent in there somewhere. If you get him in like the 5th round, I think you could find a diamond in the rough there and a guy who maybe is a starter down the road, or maybe you kick him inside to guard. I thought his foot quickness was kind of slow this year. Regardless, I would like, in this scenario of following all the steps that I went through, of getting one of these guys to compete/develop as a tackle in 2025. So there you go. This could be your potential 2025 offensive line. And I don't think it's like that chaotic. I'm not saying it's like 80% likely you get all of these guys, but I think there's a scenario where you do. You could absolutely end up with Trey Smith and Drew Dahlman. Will Campbell could fall to the number 10 pick. So you go Braxton Jones, Will Campbell, Drew Dahlman, Trey Smith, Darnell Wright. I think we would all agree that would be a huge upgrade from left to right from what you had last year. Karan Amagaji, I know people are still curious about him. Maybe you let him compete with Braxton Jones, compete at guard as well. He'll have a healthy offseason this year. Jordan McFadden, who they brought in as well, he could be a backup. Ryan Bates, I just penciled him in. Maybe Coleman Shelton is back. Maybe you draft a developmental guy to back up Dahlman. You also have Ricky Stromberg. He could be the backup. We'll see. Matt Pryor. And then I put day 2, 3 pick, kind of that last bullet point we were talking about, developmental guy at the tackle position. Okay, grade this potential Bears O-line. If that's what ended up with something along those lines, especially the starters, how would you grade it? A, B, C, D, or F? I mean, that feels like a solid B unit. And like, if this year the Bears have a solid B unit, like, I don't know, the 14th, the 12th best offensive line in the NFL, that's ascending, especially if a rookie who's getting better, and you still have guys like Darnell Wright getting better. Maybe by 26, 27, you got a top 10, top 8 unit in the NFL. Like, give me top half this year. Give me a top half of the league offensive line, B minus group, hopefully better, but better than what you've had in several years. I think we would all be pretty happy about that. Okay, be sure to follow me on social media at HGramNFL on Twitter, at HGramNFL on Instagram. DMs are wide open. I'm posting content on those platforms as well, so don't miss out on any of that. My name is Harrison Graham. See you guys over there. Cameron Crispin, appreciate the $1 donation, Cameron. Sam Loctera, starting to lean towards team pass on Trey Smith. If someone outbids 23-25 a year, bring in Zeitler to develop some rookies. I just think, like, you got to get a surefire guy in here. Like, even if you don't think Trey Smith is an all-pro, at absolute worst, he's a very good starter. So I hear what you're saying. Like, it's a tough pill to swallow if it gets to a certain price, and obviously, if you're in this bidding war, eventually you would stop if it got above like $25 million or something. But guys, like, they just don't have enough high-level offensive linemen. Like, I think when a guy like this becomes available, you gotta strike. And like, I think Kevin Zeitler is a great Band-Aid, but that's kind of what he is. He's a Band-Aid. He's a 1-2 year option at most. And the developed rookies, I get it, but like, you want 2-3 rookies starting this year? Like, ideally, you'll probably have one rookie that starts, maybe two, but one at most. And let's be real. And hopefully with this new coaching staff, they will develop better, but that hasn't always been the case. So I like the idea of getting 2 surefire starters in free agency and then drafting one in the first couple rounds as well, whether it's Will Campbell or if you want to go on day 2, find somebody, that's fine as well. But I just think cap's going up. I'm not flinching on Trey Smith, Colin. Like, I'm still paying there.
Yeah, no, I would be in the sweepstakes if I was the Bears. And to be honest, like, this level of offensive lineman does not hit the market as often as some people would like to believe. And if you're the Bears at a position of need with a young quarterback entering his second season, you got to protect him better. And to be honest, like, I've kind of told Harry this kind of off camera, I'll say it on here, I think Drew Dahlman could be like a really important signing for the Bears. There's no question. A, Trey Smith's the better player, and B, especially next season, he would bring such a big impact, a bigger impact than Dahlman to this Bears roster. You got to be in it. And like 25, maybe like the max that you'd be willing to pay. You can't just dismiss Smith. If he signs somewhere else, so be it. But you've got to at least put the effort out.
You got to enter those sweepstakes. Like, it's just, look, like, I would rather overpay there, and like, I don't know if that means like you don't sign an impactful defensive lineman and you have to go draft there. Like, I'd rather protect my quarterback. Like, we got to get this quarterback going. Like, you got to get the offense going. I trust Dennis Allen with the pieces you have on defense. You're at least going to be a good unit over there. Like, most of your core defense is back. So, like, if signing Trey Smith prevents you from, like, bringing in Josh Sweat or something like that, I'm like, okay, I will live with that. So that's just kind of my outlook on it. I get it. It's a lot of money, but the Eagles have invested a lot of money in their offensive line. It's worked out pretty well. So that would be my spin on it. Adam Downing, after some rest, I'm not mad at Ryan Poles anymore. Were we too hard on him the last few months? Maybe a little, but like, I think a lot of the criticism was valid. He admitted as much. It's been reported that he, like, a big part of Ben Johnson liking Ryan Poles was like Poles in these interviews with candidates admitted mistakes and shortcomings that he and this organization have made. Like, this has been a bumpy road. Now, has it been a disaster from Poles? No, I think the coaching has been a far bigger disaster. But he's had hand in picking the prior coaching staff.
Yeah.
So like, I think the criticism was fair. I don't want to like speak. I don't want to speak falsely here. I'm trying to remember exactly what I said. I don't think I ever once came on here and was like, you have to fire Ryan Poles no matter what. I think for the most part, I was pretty consistent and said, hey, if keeping Ryan Poles costs you Ben Johnson, you should get rid of him. Is that right for the most part? I know I did a video where I was like, when you add up all the moves he's made, firing him probably makes the most sense. But the bigger take I had was, I want Ben Johnson. If Ben Johnson is cool with Poles, that's fine with me. I wasn't taking pitchforks to his house like I was Matt Eberflus.
No.
I feel comfortable saying that.
There was a point where you may have been.
I was leaning toward fire
Yes.
Poles, but I also always added the advocate. I always added the no, because remember there was all those rumors of like Johnson wants to bring in his own guy.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I was like, well, if this guy's going to cost you like Johnson, he hasn't been good enough for that.
Right.
But once it became clear that like Johnson will work with him, I was like, okay, like is upgrading something you could do there? Sure, but look, a lot of guys, young coaches, young GMs, they make mistakes early on. I think he's done some good things. And look, if they get this O-line right, and here's the bottom line too, guys. If he was right about Caleb, he's going to get a lot of credit as time goes on for trading Fields and drafting Caleb. Jury is out. Pick fell into his lap a little bit, but still. Like,
He did make the move to get the number 1 overall pick.
He did.
And, like, the thing is, too, is we talked about it with Ben Johnson. Like, no one's blaming the Bears for hiring Ben Johnson if it doesn't work out. You know what also they're not going to blame? Hey, you signed the number 1 guard in free agency and paid him a premium, and it didn't work out. No one's blaming you for that.
Yeah, Poles is going to get ripped if he doesn't invest in the O-line this offseason. So, like, look, I think the jury is very much still out on Poles. I think I'm fine with him being back. I'll put it this way. I would have been fine if they fired him. But they got Ben Johnson, so whatever happens from there with Poles, fire or keep him, if I knew you're getting Johnson, I'm kind of cool either way. Johnson seems to like Poles, spoke highly of him in the presser. Cool. Let's go build this offensive line and keep stacking, and let's get more production out of the players Poles does have, because I do think he's gotten some good players in here, and I do think the development from the prior staff has not been very good. Like, there's certain guys that I look at, I'm like, that player should be better. Like, Tyreek Stevenson should be a better player right now. Now, he's a specific case where he's got to just look himself in the mirror some too, but yeah, it's a big year. It's a big year. Big offseason for Poles, no question. Hunter Young, other than Caleb, who do you want to have the best step forward next year? I think Rome. Yeah, I think Rome's a good call there. Like, we kind of just brushed past the fact, guys, he was the number 9 pick. You take a receiver in the top 10, you're expecting that guy to be a number 1 receiver at some point. Now, you don't need him to be that right away. You've got DJ Moore. Like, you should expect Rome most years to be a 1,000-yard guy. That you drafted him in the top 10. I think as a rookie, he was fine. We kind of knew he was going to be the number 3 guy for 1 year with Keenan here. He still had over 700 yards. So, like, if Keenan's out of the picture and they don't have, like, a high level number 3 guy, I would expect Rome to be at least flirt with being a 1,000-yard guy next year. Like, I think you could have 2,000-yard guys with him and DJ next year.
I'll throw my own kind of answer here because I think Rome is the correct answer. I like to see Javon Dexter take a step forward this year. I think if you're building that defensive line, because, again, we've talked ad nauseum about the Bears building this offensive line. The defensive line is important, too. Yep. I think Montez Sweat, he is who he is. I remember building the graphic, Harry, of all of Javon Dexter's goals, before the season started and how, motivated he was. And, again, I'm not saying he's a bad player or anything, but if he really wants to be part of this, future and, Dennis Allen's mold, like, I kind of want him to take a step forward this year and really be like an impact player on the interior of the defensive line.
He definitely took a step last year. So here's kind of his career in 2 years. Year 1, he was like he was a rotation guy that flashed some as a rookie. Okay, that's fine. Second round pick. Year 2, I think he improved enough to the point where like he's a fine to solid starter. can he be, I'm not saying an all-pro this year, but can he be like a high-level starter by the end of this year, right? Like, I think he's one of the few guys, I'll say this, Colin, and we did a video on this. He's one of the few guys who actually improved last year, whereas a lot of guys, maybe they didn't regress in talent, but their production regressed. His actually improved. I do think he hit a wall in the middle of the season because he came out firing, remember, and then he kind of slowed down. I think that's the next step is like, hey, like you're 2 years in the NFL now. This isn't college where it's a 12-game season. Like you gotta stay productive throughout the year. But yeah, like if this D line is gonna take the next step, it can't just be go add 2 premium players. Like Dexter has got to be an impactful player. So if Sweat bounces back, Dexter takes a step, and you add 1 piece to go with those guys, I think the D line could be sneaky pretty good next year.
Which there's a lot of defensive tackle prospects, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like they will. I would be shocked if the Bears didn't add somebody on the interior.
That's another reason I kind of like adding a TJ Sanders because like if Dexter doesn't elevate to like this high level starter, it's like, well, maybe you just kind of like they're almost like split starters. Mm-hmm. Like they just split the snaps. Like and maybe the rookie takes over next year or something. So it also sucks that Zach Pickens just stinks. I mean that's been a whiff so far.
Yep.
Sam, unrelated, but I got re-angry again thinking about how we let Prime Roquan walk and then signed Edmonds for 18. Yet that made no sense. Well, to be fair, they didn't let him walk. They traded him for a second-round pick in a 5th, I think. But I hear what you're saying. The trade I didn't have a huge problem with at the time because trading Roquan at the time to me is similar to like if the Browns traded Myles Garrett now in the sense of the Bears at the time were nowhere close to contending. If you just want to like save that money and not give him $20 million a year and use it elsewhere, fine. What you don't do is turn around and pay a different off-ball linebacker 90% compared to the player who's clearly better in Roquan Smith. So, yeah, I think the second part of that, the Edmonds part, that was the mistake. Okay, who do we got next? Is this the last one?
Mm-hmm. It is, yeah.
What happened to Alan Williams? I have no idea. I hope we get a leak someday about what the hell happened there. But a little before your time, Colin, he was Matt Eberflus's defensive coordinator who 1 game into his 2nd season here.
The guy that got raided. Right?
Resigned because there was rumors of FBI raids.
Oh, yeah.
No one knows what happened. So I hope we find out one day. I would love to be a fly on the wall in those conversations before he was let go, but only a few people know, and I'm not one of them. All right, have a great weekend, everybody. I'll be back at studio tomorrow. We'll film at least one new segment for the weekend, so stay tuned. Any final thoughts?
Nothing.
Combine next week should be fun. Good content from that.
Combine should be fun. Again, like this may be the time where, like, again, I'll take another deep look at some prospects and stuff and really enjoy it. Linebacker. My crush at linebacker will be coming on Monday. Yeah.
I think next week, because the last between the Super Bowl and like now, it gets a little slow because I think like the media and these agents, they're kind of gassed. So I think there's kind of like this understanding of like, hey, not a lot of news flow. Like people go on vacations and stuff.
Yep.
But now next week, all 32 teams and all the big time agents are in the same place.
Yep.
So there's talks, there's trade. You're gonna hear trade buzz next week. You guys want to take Matthew Stafford trade buzz next week is going to be spicy.
Very spicy.
Don't you think? Don't you think there's going to be like a Tuesday morning
there will be something
of something Stafford related? So that obviously doesn't directly impact the Bears, but things are going to pick up next week.
I am willing to call that. I'll even call my team. I think the Giants and Stafford. Like there's going to be some rumor. Ian Rappaport, NFL Network, just going to pop on screen, and we're going to be talking about it in some shape or form.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Stay tuned. We'll have it all covered next week. Rumors from the Combine, draft coverage from the Combine as well. Should be fun. Shout out to Colin for producing. Have a good weekend, everybody. See you guys soon.